I've played Dark Souls 3 a lot, more so than the other two in the trilogy, and probably on par with Bloodborne at this point. I'll go as far as to say that it would be in my top 3 most played games of all time, probably behind Sonic the Hedgehog 2 and Metal Gear Solid 5, and yes, I did enjoy that game, people are allowed their own opinions. From my first experience all the way up to speedrunning it and challenging myself with certain builds, it's a great game that offers endless gameplay. But even with everything included in the game and the DLCs, sometimes you wish there was just more to do. And that's where mods come in. Mods have been in games for years, and can range from simply cosmetic changes to totally revamping the game entirely. First mod I ever remember seeing, and actually playing, was the Aliens mod for Doom, back in the mid-90s. Since then, there have been mods for any and all games, so it comes with no surprise that there are mods for Dark Souls 3. I've been playing a bunch of them, some great that up the challenge to ridiculous levels to others that add a new way to play through the game again. The first and one of the funnest, albeit slightly broken in places, is the Jojo Bizarre Adventure mod. For those unfamiliar with JoJo, all you need to know is 1, it's awesome, and 2, it's the manga/anime that a vast amount of memes come from. What this mod does is swap your use of weapons and instead allows you to use enemies as stands, the ability characters like Jotaro and Dio use. In theory, this sounds amazing, and it is, but there's a few caveats with using stands. Using the standard settings of the mod, stands are based on the enemy groups of the area you're currently in. Depending on your location, some are incredibly powerful, whilst others are nearly useless. You'll quickly learn each time you enter a new area to check what you're now equipped with and test their abilities, all of which are mapped to the regular attack buttons. Different buttons throw out different attacks, all whilst you punch the living hell out of whatever you're fighting. It can take some time getting used to the timing and spacing, as they are not spawned instantly and have a tendency to get locked in position if you don't let them fully disappear. But these are minor issues that don't break the overall experience. So you begin exactly like any other new game. You choose a name, original I know, and pick a starting class and a burial gift to go off with your new bizarre adventure. After testing out my initial stand and spending far too long trying to hit this one dude with a bomb, I made it to the first boss, Gundyr. Currently I have a Zongai, a Doggo and a Lizard Man, and by far Lizard Man is kicking out the most damage, so I stuck with him for the rest of the fight. Apart from the stand getting stuck in place, it went pretty well as the damage output was great when it hit. With Gundyr defeated, I was on my way to Firelink Shrine. Unsure if leveling any stats other than Vigour and Endurance would do anything, I put my souls into them, and walked all the way to the hard wall of Lothric. I've lost Lizard Man and Zongai, kept Doggo and gained Soldier Boy, who, after giving a Mimic a good beating, was replaced by one of the soldiers and Fat Knight. Vort was next on the hit list, and proved to be a slight challenge for once as I whiffed multiple attacks. With Vort dead, I moved swiftly to the undead settlement, and I now had a little creep and a farmer of stands, neither useful nor enemies I like, so I pressed on to the middle bonfire where I obtained the Love Shack and my attacks finally started doing damage. Skipping the cursed rotten Greatwood fight because it's boring and pointless, I slaughtered my way towards the elevator. The fat magic lady I thought would prove handy to throw curse magic at the Outrider Knight, but I quickly learned to stick with melee attacks with Love Shack for that damage. Not wasting any time, I legged it from the start of Road of Sacrifice to the Halfway Fortress bonfire and tested out my new stands. Beastie Boys looked like a solid choice, but the giant enemy crab and its slam attack was the deal breaker for me. Deciding to head straight over to the Crystal Sage, I grabbed the Crucifixion Wood bonfire and made my way to the boss fight. The only reason this took longer than it should have was because of the stupid teleporting, as each slam from Krabby was taking off a significant portion of health. But with the Sage slain, I went to level up more and venture forth towards the next bonfire. I'd normally skip these two idiots and watch them fall to their demise, but I couldn't let the opportunity to flatten them go by. Hastily lighting each fire and grabbing any useful items I could find, along with Littlefinger doing their usual best to mess up my run, I got all the way to the Abyss Watchers. Stand-wise, I had a Dark Wraith, so there was no other choice but to slay the Watcher with it. Timing became an issue due to the speed and movement of the boss, but eventually with perseverance they were put down. One thing I should point out is that when a stand is out, they're physically there, which is good and bad. Good, because you can bait enemies to aggro it, thereby giving you some breathing room. Bad, in that they can block your movement, so it can be frustrating to get stuck. With the Watchers dead, I headed back over to the Sage's bonfire to go start my side adventure to the Deacons. Making my way inside, and after having a very laggy fight with a Mimic, I arrived outside the fog wall to the boss room. As I entered and started getting destroyed, I noticed I had a new stand, a giant. It was not as useful as I thought. I'm disappointed with myself the most. Getting back to the boss fight, cheesing the fire magic behind pillars and the giant slamming and glitching out, the Deacons were no more. After another level up at Firelink, it was time to roll our way through the catacombs. A few slight issues with skeletons and rats later, and I was ready to take on Volnir. Out of all the bosses in Dark Souls 3, when I speedrun, Volnir is the worst. Not because it's hard, because it's not, but my impatience to wait and to hit the enemy weak spot usually leads to my death. Thankfully this time all it took was a few crab slams, and Volnir went back into his hole. A short stop on the bridge to Ithril to kill the demon dog and try out my fresh new stands, I successfully lit the bonfire. Ithril is such a beautiful area to gaze at. so I ran straight through and went right to opening up the shortcut outside the church. Next up is Pontus Sullivan, and I knew this fight would be rough without the ability to parry. I was not wrong. Second time though, with a sweet uppercut to Stan's swipe, the Pontiff was no more. So far the selection of stands and change-up in gameplay has been real fun, especially using any of the ones I hate fighting against. That was about to change. Running all the way past the Knights up to Analondo and to Aldrich's boss room, I was in high spirits. My selection of stands seemed great, especially as I had another giant. Problem was that this guy was more a giant git than helpful, as he got stuck on multiple times, and even once I couldn't summon any more stands at all. But with a clear mind, timing, and a lot of rage, I finally stopped Aldrich. Another round of levelling up, and we bonfired our way all the way over to the distant manor to head up to everyone's favourite area, Ethereal Dungeon. Stupidly on the way down, I picked a fight with a Mimic, thinking my Mimic would be dominant. That was not my best idea in this run. With the game glitching out my stands, I ran to the Profaned Capital bonfire so I could restart the game, hoping to fix the issue. It didn't initially, so I ploughed on towards Yorm. Thinking it would be fine if I could just get to the Stormbreaker, I ran headfirst into the boss room. Forgetting or blindly hoping that obtaining the sword would work, I was still left without working stands and promptly died and reset again. But after loading up, my stands were back in business, and I thought I was going to have a one-on-one fight with a giant. But whether it was because I picked up the Stormbreaker, or the game feeling sorry for me, I had it as a stand to use, so thoroughly got sweet revenge on Yorm. One teleport later and I was back at the high wall, ready to face the Dancer. I was not ready, it seemed. Multiple attempts and deaths later, with a pinch of luck, because at this point I deserved it, the Dancer finally met her fate. After another spell of levelling, it was time to go through the joy that is Lothric Castle. A curse here and a gank later, and the Dragon Slayer armor was next to face the amazing power of stands. Wanted Soldier had been upgraded to a much bigger sword, so range and damage weren't an issue. What was an issue was timing his slow ass swings to actually connect hits, and after a few teething issues and another round of my stands not appearing, the armor was dead. The end was getting closer, and a quick run through the Grand Archives and up towards the castle led me to my usual run ender, Lorien and Lothric. I really enjoy this fight, but far too many times does it all go south and I end up losing a run all due to silly magic and non-cooperation from the boss. But not this time. Wanted Soldier had his game face on, and together we put the brothers down. That was it. Time to do a final level up and make my way towards the final boss. I pondered as I started travelling who the game would pair me with for the Soul of Cinder. Would it just give me everyone, or would it just troll me and give me something useless like a dog? Thankfully and mercifully, it gave me a stand that was the best one throughout the entire journey, the Soul of Cinder himself. Not only could I summon him, but after the initial summon I realised that I had time control over him myself. And in my excitement, I almost died. But I tempered my excitement and buckled down to end this. The fight was epic, a test of wits and cunning, but mainly running, dodging and mashing R1. And so they fell. I had beat the final boss, and the game then quit out unexpectedly, locking my controls once I loaded it properly back up into the world. The whole experience was truly fun, and whilst things like the stands not working or spawning in the same spot were a pain, it wasn't game breaking or frustrating enough to not recommend this mod. The changes from attacking yourself and relying on your stands means a different approach to the majority of the fights and areas. If you need to work out how to do this, do check online of how to get this one set up in your own game if you want to give it a go. So that's the first of many Dark Souls 3 and Soul game mods that I've been trying out. If you have any suggestions for any other mods I should look out, leave a comment below, and also let me know if you tried this mod out yourself. So until next time, I've been Tom from Victory Post Gaming, and thank you for watching.